Listen carefully, because this truth is sharp. It cuts through excuses like a blade through silk. Evil people do not reveal themselves with horns, with red eyes, or with fire around them. They reveal themselves with words. The most dangerous weapon they carry is not a fist, not a knife, not even a plan. It is the tongue. Pay attention to the words people speak, because when a person is filled with corruption, their mouth cannot stay silent. It betrays what lies hidden inside their heart, and if you are wise, you will learn to recognize them before they sink their poison into your soul. Evil people always start by saying words that diminish your light. They whisper things like, "You can't do it. Who do you think you are?" They say this not because they see your weakness, but because they fear your strength. Their goal is not to reveal truth, but to suffocate it. They attack your dreams with mockery. They disguise their jealousy as advice, and they lace their sentences with doubt. And if you listen long enough, you may start to believe them. That is their aim, to make you carry their poison as if it were your truth. But remember this: when someone says, "You can't," what they mean is, "I couldn't." Their words are chains they want to wrap around you, because they themselves are already imprisoned by them. There are other words evil people always repeat. They love to say, "Trust me." Listen closely. Those who are truly trustworthy never need to announce it. Trust is earned through action, not demanded through words. When someone insists, "Trust me," while their behavior contradicts honesty, beware. It is often the liar, the deceiver, the manipulator who hides behind this phrase. They say, "Trust me," while their hands are already reaching to take something from you. They say it to silence your instincts, to mute that inner alarm bell inside of you that is warning, something is wrong. Do not ignore that alarm, because when truth speaks, it does not beg. It stands by itself. Another phrase you will always hear from an evil mouth is, "It's not my fault." Watch carefully. They never take responsibility. Their life is a museum of excuses. Nothing is ever their doing. Every mistake is someone else's burden. If they fail, they point a finger. If they hurt you, they twist the story. If they betray you, they shift the blame. These are the words of someone whose soul refuses growth. Because growth begins with humility, with the courage to admit, "I was wrong." An evil person cannot form these words sincerely. Their pride blocks them, their ego blinds them, and their darkness convinces them that admitting fault would destroy them. But the truth is the opposite. Only those who confess their fault find freedom. The evil person, however, remains chained by denial. Listen for this too. "I did this for you." These are dangerous words when they come from the wrong lips. Evil people weaponize favors. They give not out of love, but out of calculation. They extend help with one hand, while the other is already drafting the bill. They want you to feel forever indebted. They say, "I did this for you," to control you, to bind you, to keep you silent when they later mistreat you. But real goodness never needs to be announced, never demands repayment, never hangs favors over your head. Be very cautious of those who constantly remind you of what they did for you. Because it was never for you, it was always for them. And you will hear this one more than anything else: "I would never do that." Evil people are masters of denial before the act is even exposed. They use pre-emptive words to cover their tracks, to build a false shield. When they say, "I would never do that," often they already have, or they are planning to. Their words are not promises, they are distractions. They speak with exaggerated innocence, knowing that you will be less likely to doubt them if they sound outraged at the mere suggestion. Do not be fooled by the volume of their denial. The louder they proclaim, the more you should pay attention to the silence of their actions. Evil people also love the phrase, "Everyone is against me." Why? Because it justifies their cruelty. It paints them as the victim, even when they are the aggressor. They thrive on pity, they manipulate compassion, and they twist perception until you begin to wonder if perhaps you were too harsh, too unkind, too blind to their suffering. Do not fall for it. This is their script, to appear wounded so they can wound others without being noticed. They cloak themselves in victimhood to escape accountability. But look closely. Those who are truly victims do not use their pain as a weapon. Only the evil do. You must also recognize the phrase, "You owe me." This is the anthem of the manipulator. To them, every interaction is a transaction. Every act of kindness is an investment waiting for return. They do not understand love, they understand leverage. They track your steps, record your words, and store your mistakes, only to bring them up later when they need power over you. They will say, "You owe me," not to balance fairness, but to tilt the scales entirely in their favor. Do not let them. The moment you feel guilt being placed upon you like a shackle, step back. Real relationships are built on mutual respect, not debt. And hear me well, one of the most poisonous sentences an evil person repeats is, "You're too sensitive." When you confront their cruelty, when you expose their harshness, when you finally dare to speak truth, they twist it back to you. They say you are weak, emotional, fragile. But this is gaslighting in its purest form. They cut you and then mock you for bleeding. They wound you and then shame you for feeling pain. This phrase is their weapon to silence you, to make you question your perception of reality, to keep you from standing against them. Do not be deceived. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is awareness. Feeling deeply is not a flaw. It is proof of humanity. The problem is not your sensitivity. The problem is their cruelty. Notice also how often they say, "I was just joking." These words often follow insults, disrespect, and subtle attacks. They camouflage daggers in humor. They test boundaries with laughter. They deliver venom through a smile. And when you react, they retreat behind the excuse of humor. But pay attention, a joke is only a joke when it brings joy. If it wounds, if it humiliates, if it tears dignity from your heart, then it was never a joke. It was an attack in disguise. Do not excuse cruelty dressed as comedy. Do not let anyone tell you to laugh at your own disrespect. Pay attention, because I tell you, the world is full of noise. And in that noise, the voices of evil often sound the loudest. They dress their words in charm. They coat them with flattery, and they lace them with promises that sparkle like gold. But beneath the surface is nothing but dust. Evil people speak not to lift you but to lower you, not to free you but to bind you, not to bless you but to drain you. If you do not train your spirit to hear beneath the words, you will find yourself caught in the net of their deception. Their sentences may appear soft, but they are weapons sharpened in secret, and every word they choose is calculated to weaken your strength, dull your discernment, and silence your truth. Listen closely when someone constantly says, "You misunderstood me." This is the anthem of the deceiver. When they are caught in a lie, when their actions are exposed, they retreat into these words, twisting reality until you doubt your own clarity. They force you to question your memory, your judgment, your very perception of truth. This is not humility. It is manipulation. A humble heart explains with clarity, but an evil heart confuses deliberately. When someone always hides behind, "You misunderstood," what they truly mean is, "I refuse to take responsibility." Do not fall for it. Your spirit knows when clarity has been turned into fog. Trust that inner knowing, for it is your shield against their distortion. Evil people are masters of the phrase, "I'm only trying to help." At first, it sounds noble. It sounds caring. But look deeper. Their help is never free. Their guidance is rarely pure. Their help is a disguise, a rope tied around your decisions, your freedom, your independence. They interfere not to uplift, but to direct you toward their own interests. They use the mask of help to plant seeds of control, to force you to walk a path that benefits them alone. True help does not bind, it liberates. True help does not manipulate, it empowers. If you sense that their so-called help leaves you smaller, weaker, or more dependent, then know it for what it is, a cage dressed as kindness. Mark also the words, "You're nothing without me." This sentence is poison straight from the pit of arrogance. Evil people speak it to enslave, to convince you that your destiny is tied to their approval, your worth bound to their presence. But hear this truth: your worth is eternal, unshakable, given not by people but by the Almighty. Anyone who dares to say you are nothing without them has already declared themselves blind to truth. They want to make themselves your master, but you were not created to live under chains. You were created to walk in freedom, in dignity, in unshakable strength. The moment you hear this phrase, reject it with every fiber of your being, for it is not just an insult, it is an attempt to steal your identity. Another phrase dripping from evil lips is, "I'm the only one who truly cares about you." At first, it sounds comforting. It sounds like loyalty, but beneath it lies isolation. Their goal is not to care, it is to cut you off. They want you separated from every voice that could rescue you, from every friend who could open your eyes. They wrap you in false exclusivity, whispering that no one else sees your worth, until you cling them as your only anchor. But understand this, anyone who truly cares for you will never seek to isolate you. They will not trap you with dependency. Real love expands your world, false love shrinks it. If you ever hear, "I'm the only one who cares," recognize the cage they are building around you, and step out before the door locks shut. Evil people also say, "Everyone else is the problem." Do you notice the pattern? They never take responsibility, never admit fault, never acknowledge their role. To them, life is a battlefield where they are always the innocent soldier, surrounded by enemies. This is not truth, it is a strategy. By painting themselves as the blameless victim, they invite your sympathy, your defense, your loyalty. But in reality, they are often the storm behind the chaos. They are the common thread in every conflict, the hidden root of the destruction. If you meet someone who is always in a battle, but never at fault, be very cautious. For sooner or later, they will turn the same story against you, and listen carefully when they say, "I never said that." These are words of denial spoken by those who twist time itself to escape truth. You heard them clearly, your memory carries the sting of their sentence. But when you confront them, they erase it with denial. This is a dangerous game. They are not simply denying words, they are rewriting your reality. If you allow it, you will begin to doubt your own mind, your own memory, your own certainty. This is the mark of the gaslighter, the deceiver who knows that the most effective way to control a person is not through strength but through confusion. Stand firm in your clarity. Do not let your truth be swallowed by their denial. But the most subtle and dangerous words of all may be these: "I love you." Because when spoken by an evil heart, those words carry no real love. They are bait, a sweet coating over bitter poison. Real love is action, consistency, sacrifice. But evil people speak, "I love you," as a key to unlock your trust, a tool to gain your loyalty, a weapon to soften your defenses. They do not mean love, they mean control. They do not mean care, they mean ownership. Watch their actions, for they will reveal the truth. Love is not proven in declarations, it is proven in deeds. If someone's actions wound you while their mouth says, "I love you," then know this: their words are empty. Open your eyes, for the battlefield is not always in distant lands. Sometimes it is in the very conversations you have every day. Evil does not always announce itself with fire. It whispers through words, sliding into your mind like smoke. And if you are not vigilant, those whispers begin to shape your thinking, to alter your vision, to bend your spirit. Words are seeds, and every seed grows into something. When the righteous speak, their words grow into hope, strength, and peace. When the corrupt speak, their words grow into confusion, fear, and destruction. That is why you must learn to discern not just what is said, but the spirit behind it. Consider the phrase, "No one will believe you." These words are the prison of the abuser, the cage of the oppressor. They use it to silence victims, to keep truth buried under the weight of fear. When someone tells you, "No one will believe you," what they really mean is, "I am terrified of your voice, so I must kill it before it exposes me." Do not let those words chain you, because truth does not need an army to validate it, it carries its own power. Even if the world doubts, even if the crowd laughs, truth stands firm. And when you dare to speak, the light you release will scatter the shadows they hide in. Hear also the phrase, "That's just the way I am." At first, it may sound harmless, even casual, but these are the words of someone who refuses change, someone who clings to their darkness as if it were identity. They insult, they wound, they manipulate, and when confronted, they shrug and say, "That's just the way I am." This is not honesty, it is resignation. It is a refusal to take accountability, to grow, to evolve. Beware of those who hide their cruelty behind personality. True strength is not in clinging to flaws but in rising above them. The one who says, "That's just the way I am," is declaring, "I would rather hurt you than humble myself." Another subtle phrase that reveals darkness is, "You're imagining things." These words are designed to erode your confidence in your own mind. They come when you notice inconsistencies, when your spirit senses something wrong, when your intuition is screaming for attention. Instead of answering truthfully, the evil person attacks your perception. They make you doubt your sight, your hearing, your instincts. But your spirit is not mistaken. The very fact that they must convince you that your reality is false proves they are afraid of what you see. Trust your awareness, because intuition is a form of wisdom, and wisdom is a shield. There is also the phrase, "After all I've done for you." At its root, it is not gratitude but control. It is the cry of a manipulator who counts favors like coins in a ledger. They give not out of love but as a future weapon. Every gift becomes a shackle, every kindness a chain. They will remind you again and again, using the past as leverage to dictate your present. But remember this: true giving expects nothing in return. A genuine heart does not bring receipts. The one who says, "After all I've done for you," has revealed that they never gave at all. They only invested, waiting for a day to collect interest from your guilt. Watch also for, You'll regret this. At first, it sounds like warning, but often it is a threat. Evil people speak it not to protect, but to intimidate. They want you to feel trapped, to second guess your choices, to live in fear of punishment for daring to walk away. But understand this clearly: no decision rooted in truth, no step guided by clarity, will ever bring regret. The only regret comes from staying chained to darkness. If someone says, "You'll regret this," what they mean is, "I am losing my control, and I cannot stand it." Let their threat expose their weakness, not your fear. Evil people are also fond of saying, "You're overreacting." These words are daggers meant to pierce your confidence. You feel the wound, you see the injustice, but when you speak, they diminish your response. They want you to think your pain is excessive, your anger unjustified, your reaction irrational. This is how they make cruelty acceptable, by convincing you to stay silent in the face of it. But hear me, if something hurts your dignity, your peace, your humanity, then your reaction is not an overreaction. It is the echo of your soul refusing to be crushed. Never let anyone make you feel ashamed for standing against wrong. And perhaps the most insidious of all phrases, "Without me, you are nothing." This is the chant of tyrants, the belief of narcissists. They feed off dependency, off your fear of being alone. They want you to believe that your existence is incomplete without them, that your identity dissolves when they walk away. But truth says otherwise. You are complete in yourself. Your worth is not borrowed, it is not rented, it is not handed out by the mouths of the arrogant. Your value is eternal, planted within you, unshakable. When someone says, "Without me, you are nothing," they are confessing their own emptiness. They need you to survive, not the other way around. Words, my friend, are windows. Through them, you see the architecture of a person's soul. Evil can dress itself in fine clothing, can paint its face with beauty, can disguise itself with generosity. But listen to the words, and you will see the cracks in the mask. Pay attention, not just to what is spoken, but how often, when, and with what intent. For repetition is the fingerprint of the heart, and evil hearts cannot help but repeat themselves. Their phrases are their confession, their words their testimony, their sentences their signature. The wise learn not just to hear but to discern. They do not accept every word at face value. They weigh it, they test it, they examine its fruit. And once you see the pattern, once you recognize the cycle, you can no longer be deceived. Evil thrives where ears are closed, but it withers where discernment lives. Hear me now, because this is the kind of truth that must pierce deep into your heart and stay there like fire. Evil does not always attack with violence. More often, it seduces with words. And when those words lodge themselves inside your mind, they begin to shape the way you see yourself, the way you walk, the way you dream. That is why evil people choose their words carefully, because they know one phrase can shatter courage, one sentence can destroy trust. One whisper can make the strongest warrior doubt his own strength. But when you learn to recognize their phrases, their power over you collapses. Listen carefully for the words, "You can't live without me." Do you feel the weight of that? This is not love, it is ownership disguised as intimacy. They want you to believe that your survival depends on their presence. But truth declares the opposite. The fact that someone speaks those words reveals that they cannot live without you. They cling, they bind, they control, because deep within, they know they offer no real light of their own. They must chain others to their side to feel powerful. But you were created to walk free, to breathe deeply without chains, to rise without needing permission. Anyone who says, "You can't live without me," has already revealed their own emptiness. Evil also reveals itself in the phrase, "I only said that because I care." Watch the deception here. They insult you, they belittle you, they speak daggers. And when you flinch at the wound, they cover it with this excuse. This is manipulation at its finest. Their cruelty is repackaged as love, their abuse dressed as concern. But genuine care does not need to wound. Correction does not need to humiliate. Guidance does not need to strip away dignity. The moment someone says, "I only said that because I care," after cutting you with their words, know this: they do not care for you, they care for control. Mark also the subtle poison in, "Don't tell anyone." It may sound harmless, even intimate, but when it comes from the wrong mouth, it is a warning flag. Evil thrives in secrecy. They do not want light, they do not want truth, they do not want accountability. They whisper, "Don't tell anyone," to isolate you, to trap you in silence, to make you carry burdens that do not belong to you. Understand this clearly: when something is good, it can stand in the light. When something is righteous, it does not need hiding. Only what is crooked demands shadows. So when you hear, "Don't tell anyone," ask yourself why. What truth are they afraid of? What light are they running from? There is also the phrase, "Everyone else does it." Do not miss this one, for it is the anthem of justification. Evil people use it to excuse dishonesty, to excuse betrayal, to excuse cruelty. They say, "Everyone else does it," as if the corruption of the many can wash away their guilt. But righteousness is not measured by crowds, and truth is not decided by numbers. Just because a million people walk in darkness does not mean the darkness becomes light. Evil thrives when people seek safety in the crowd. But hear this, if the crowd justifies wrong, then the crowd is already lost. Do not be deceived by majority voices. Listen to the voice of truth within you. Beware also of those who constantly say, "You're lucky to have me." Their arrogance reveals itself in these words. Instead of gratitude for your presence in their life, they twist it into a weapon of pride. They want you to live in constant fear of losing them, to make you believe that you are beneath them, that their presence is your only blessing. But truth says otherwise. You are not lucky to be chained to arrogance. You are not blessed to be bound to manipulation. Real blessings build you, they never belittle you. If someone truly values you, they will never force you to feel inferior. The one who says, "You're lucky to have me," is really terrified that you will one day see your worth and walk away. Pay attention also to this phrase, "No one else will want you." This is perhaps one of the cruelest lies. Evil people spit it out like venom, hoping to corrode your confidence, to weaken your spirit, to make you cling to them in fear of rejection. But the very fact that they must say these words shows they see your worth more clearly than you do. They are terrified of others recognizing the treasure you are, so they try to blind you before anyone else sees the light inside you. Reject this lie immediately, for your worth is not determined by their blindness, but by the unshakable truth that you were created with purpose, with beauty, with value no human voice can diminish. And do not overlook the phrase, "You made me do this." These are words of pure cowardice, the anthem of the abuser. They wound you and then claim you forced their hand. They rage, they harm, they betray, and then they twist the story until somehow you are guilty for their actions. Understand this, no one's sin is ever caused by another. Evil people speak, "You made me do this," because they cannot bear the mirror of accountability. They hand you their guilt like a gift, hoping you will carry the weight of their shame. But you are not responsible for another's darkness. Their actions belong to them alone. Never accept blame for what you did not commit. And here is another phrase, dripping with arrogance. You'll come crawling back. This is the boast of those who believe they own your destiny. They want to convince you that no matter how far you go, you will always return to them, broken and desperate. But what they fail to understand is that once truth has opened your eyes, once freedom has touched your spirit, you can never return to bondage. The one who says, "You'll come crawling back," has already confessed their dependence on you. They hope their prophecy will chain you, but their arrogance is their own undoing. Do you see the pattern now? Evil is not random, it is deliberate, and its words reveal its strategy. Diminish, confuse, isolate, control, intimidate, justify. These are the pillars of their speech. But once you hear them clearly, once you recognize their phrases, you cannot be fooled again. Listen with all the strength of your spirit, because the words of the corrupt are not mere noise. They are traps laid with precision. Every syllable is crafted to ensnare, every phrase designed to confuse, every sentence intended to bend your reality until you are no longer sure of what is true. That is how evil works, not by force at first, but by persuasion. It softens you with words, reshapes your confidence, and once it weakens your voice, it seizes control. But you must not allow yourself to be lulled by their tone, or blinded by their charm. When you know the patterns of evil speech, you strip it of its disguise and expose its rotten core. Hear the phrase, "You're nothing without me." This is not love, it is slavery. It is the attempt of a broken soul to bind you to their chains. Evil people do not want partnership, they want ownership. They will stand before you, puffed with arrogance, declaring that you are incomplete without them. But in truth, it is they who cannot survive without your light. They fear the moment you realize your true worth, because the day you awaken to it is the day they lose all power over you. Do not bow to this lie. You were never created to orbit someone else's pride. You were created to walk in dignity, to stand with a backbone of steel, to know your worth is infinite whether anyone acknowledges it or not. Notice also the phrase, "I didn't mean it." These words often come after venom has been released, after an insult has sliced deep, after betrayal has left scars. But when evil lips utter, "I didn't mean it," they are not seeking forgiveness. They are seeking escape. They know exactly what they said, exactly what they did. The wound was intentional, the cruelty deliberate. But when confronted, they shrink into denial, hiding behind false innocence. Hear me, repetition reveals truth. If someone keeps wounding and always follows with, "I didn't mean it," then you must see the pattern. The intention is not in their apology but in their actions. Do not be deceived by soft words after sharp cruelty. Pay attention to, "That never happened." These are the words of the gaslighter. They strip your memory bare. They rewrite history. They try to turn your certainty into doubt. When you bring up their wrongs, they deny with such force, such confidence, that you begin to question yourself. But know this, your spirit does not lie. If the memory haunts you, if the wound still aches, then truth is speaking. The denials of evil are not erasers of reality. They are only masks of fear. Stand firm in what you know. Hold fast to the truth, for truth is the ground under your feet. Another phrase to mark: "You owe me everything." Evil people keep a ledger of every gesture, every favor, every moment they extended their hand. They never give freely. Every act of kindness is a loan waiting to be collected. And when the time is right, they pull out the record, thrust it before you, and demand loyalty, silence, or sacrifice. But hear me, no true love, no genuine friendship, no righteous relationship demands repayment for kindness. Real hearts give because giving is their nature. They do not calculate. They do not collect. Beware of anyone who says, "You owe me everything," for their giving was never a gift, it was bait. Listen also for the phrase, "I'm the only one you can trust." This is not protection, it is isolation. They want to cut off every other voice, every source of light, every hand that could pull you out of their control. They convince you that others are dangerous, unreliable, or deceptive, all while hiding their own corruption. By narrowing your circle, they make themselves the center. But remember this, true allies never demand exclusivity. They never demand that you turn away from every other bond. The one who says, "I'm the only one you can trust," has already revealed that they are building a prison with walls of fear. Do not ignore the words, "Everyone else is jealous of you." Evil people use this to divide you from others. They paint the world as your enemy, whispering that every friend, every family member, every supporter secretly despises you. Why? Because if they can convince you that all others are against you, you will cling more tightly to them. But discern this carefully. Jealousy is real, but it does not live in every heart. Only the manipulative try to make you believe you are constantly surrounded by enemies. Their goal is to plant paranoia, to make you walk in suspicion, to ensure that you never find refuge outside their grasp. But know this, not everyone is against you, and not everyone is jealous. Wisdom allows you to separate true friends from hidden foes, but evil tries to blur the line. And remember this phrase, "You'll never find better." At its root, it is arrogance, insecurity, and fear woven into one. The speaker is terrified of your freedom, so they chain you with the suggestion that no one else will ever treat you as they do. And perhaps that is the truth, but not in the way they intend. Indeed, you may never find someone who disrespects you in the same way. Never find someone who manipulates you with such persistence. Never find someone who cloaks cruelty with such charm. But that is not loss, it is liberation. The fact that you will not find another like them is not a curse, it is a blessing. Mark also the statement, "I only did it because of you." These are words of deflection. They sin and then call it sacrifice. They wound and then claim you provoked them. They fall and then blame you for pushing them. This is the coward's shield, the liar's weapon. They twist their failures into your responsibility. But hear me, every soul is responsible for its own choices. Evil people want you to carry their shame so that they can walk freely while you drown in false guilt. Do not take the burden that does not belong to you. And one of the most subtle yet dangerous lines is this, "You're too good for me." It sounds humble, even flattering, but listen closely. It is not humility, it is manipulation. They say it to lower your guard, to wrap themselves in false innocence. They plant pity in your heart, so that when they fail again, you will excuse it, saying, "They already told me they're not worthy." But true humility does not destroy, it builds. True humility grows in action, not in phrases. Beware of those who constantly degrade themselves in words, but continue to harm in deeds. Evil has a language, and once you learn it, you can never unhear it. Its words are chains, but chains can only bind if you let them. The moment you identify the pattern, the moment you see the trick, you are free. because words only control when they are believed. Reject the poison, reject the lies, reject the manipulation. Stand firm in truth, and no matter how silver their tongue, no matter how sweet their sentences, their power will crumble before your discernment. So now, let this truth burn in your heart like a flame that cannot be extinguished. Evil people always reveal themselves through their words. They cannot help it, for the tongue is the overflow of the heart, and a corrupted heart will always leak poison. Their phrases are not casual, they are calculated. They are not slips of the tongue, they are strategies of the spirit. Each sentence they speak is a thread in a net designed to catch your confidence, your peace, your dignity. But once you recognize the pattern, once your ears are trained to discern the hidden venom, they lose their grip over you. Do not be deceived by soft tones or flattering phrases. Do not be blinded by false apologies or manipulated by hollow declarations of care. Look beyond the surface. Test every word, weigh every sentence, and align it with truth. If it diminishes you, reject it. If it confuses you, step back. If it binds you, break free. Your life is too valuable, your calling too great, your spirit too strong to be enslaved by the whispers of darkness. Remember, you are not powerless. You carry within you the authority to silence the lies, to sever the chains, to walk in clarity when others are trapped in fog. The words of evil may come dressed as love, as loyalty, as humor, as help, but discernment will strip them bare. And when you see clearly, when you refuse to swallow their poison, when you stand firm in truth, their power collapses like ash in the wind. So guard your ears, guard your heart, guard your spirit. Do not allow the language of darkness to shape your life. Stand boldly, walk firmly, and let your own words be filled with light, with strength, with honor. For though evil may speak, it cannot define you. Though it may whisper, it cannot direct your path. You belong to truth, and truth will always be louder than the lies.